All right, welcome back to another weekly segment, Weekly Bite, giving you guys some stuff to nosh on. I'm Jeff Policio, the founder of Allied Insight, and today we have a guest with us. We're joined by Matt Dichter, VP of Sales over at Staffing Engine. Matt, welcome.
Hey everyone, great to be on. Thanks for having me, Jeff. For anyone who doesn't know, Jeff and I go a little ways back, actually. Prior to joining Staffing Engine, I was at Bullhorn for about 8.5 years. And in that capacity, I worked with staffing and recruiting agencies across all verticals of all shapes and sizes. Jeff at the time was running marketing for one of our prospects, and we actually met each other during a sales cycle where he was a prospect of mine. We've since become friends and partners, and it's been a great relationship.
Yeah, man, dude, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like you're the guru of all things like technology and staffing, right? Like you've worked on the enterprise side, you've seen how these things get executed at a very high level. So super excited to have you on, super excited to be talking about the stuff that's happening over at Staffing Engine.
I wouldn't call myself a guru, but I'll thank you.
So listen, this week's segment, we're talking about recruitment acceleration with Staffing Engine. And as always, I know that we tend to use a little bit of a sizzle to the title in order to be able to get people interested. So but let's sort of break that down a little bit. And first, I kind of want to start with Staffing Engine and who you guys are in the mix. So who's at the helm of Staffing Engine, and where do they come from? Let's talk about some of the people that you have that are just kind of leading the front.
And I appreciate you starting with that, because I really do think that our team's at the foundation of what we're building here. So 3 of our 4 founding members are formerly from TextUs. So our CEO, Ted Guggenheim, our CMO, Andrew Kimmel, our CTO, Mike Hickman. And then the 4th member is a former coworker of mine from Bullhorn, Jay Cutler. And they've really built the foundation for this really amazing team. We all have an extensive industry background. Obviously, they grew TextUs from a very small startup to a pretty lucrative business. And Staffing Engine was their next product. And then they've started filling in the team, not only with myself, but our VP of Customer Experience, Casey. She's made a really exciting hire on our customer success team. Mike's brought over a couple of former developers that he worked with. And it's just been really fun watching not only how we work together, but how we've slowly started building the team. We're actually not even that slowly, but
right. I mean, that's a pretty rapid acceleration, but it sounds like you got some heavy hitters over there, which is awesome. Yeah. And so now that, listen, we obviously have notable people that are on the team. Let's talk about recruitment acceleration, because it's sort of a new concept in the space. If you could just sort of give a brief overview, that big picture, 30,000 foot, what is recruitment acceleration?
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot that can go into it, but at the very highest of levels, the idea of recruiting acceleration or recruitment acceleration is taking really powerful artificial intelligence and pointing it at different challenges, and not only the recruiting life cycle, but the sales life cycle, middle and back office, and solving challenges to issues that staffing and recruiting agencies face on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So now that we understand what recruitment acceleration is, what is the innovation that Staffing Engine is bringing into the industry?
Yeah, so we think that we can ultimately be a 24/7 virtual assistant. And if you think about the day-to-day tasks of a recruiter or salesperson, they're filled with mundane tasks in addition to relationship building, and there's just not enough time in the day. And coming from a sales background, I always say that time kills all deals. Yeah. And we need to be able to provide solutions to recruiters and salespeople that allow them to work faster, not slower. And so that's sort of at the very highest level where we want to start and where we want to go as a business.
Nice. So you have this virtual recruiter that you guys are setting up, but how? Why? How is this actually coming together?
Yeah, and from a startup standpoint, a lot of times startups struggle with building that technology and making it scalable. We actually have a very big head start. So Ted, our CEO, had a relationship with the team at OneReach.ai. You all might not have heard of them before because they don't have a footprint in staffing and recruiting, but they actually just got recognized by Gartner as being a leader in the enterprise conversational AI category, in the first ever time that was in the Magic Quadrant. And from a performance standpoint, they're actually beating out companies like IBM and Google as far as applying AI to different customer applications.
Wow.
So very powerful, scalable technology. we're taking that and we're bringing it into a new vertical for them, which is staffing and recruiting. We are building integrations to tools that staffing and recruiting companies use. And we're also building it into use cases and knowledge models that are important to staffing and recruiting. So that's probably our biggest differentiator, is that we just have access to this incredibly powerful AI platform.
So now listen, I mean, you and I go back and we can certainly laugh about it now, but right? Like whenever I hear AI, I always get a little bit squirrely. But I mean, in this instance, are we just talking about a chatbot? Like, is that what this is? Or is this true? You know me. Is this
Yeah,
true
yeah,
AI?
yeah. And certainly chatbot is one part of it. It was the most obvious productization that we could think of, and was one of the first solution sets that we built. But this is way more than just a chatbot. One of the traps that I think tech companies before us have fallen into is just being a chatbot company. We want to build bots and use AI that basically follow you around. So whether, forget just your traditional website bot, although we can do that very well, but candidates and clients are going to different places to visit agencies. They're doing it via text message, they're doing it on social media, they're doing it on their website. If you think about them calling a phone number, there can be AI calling. And so we want to not only have a really strong chatbot, but really AI that follows you around and can help be an assistant at every step of the recruitment or sales lifecycle.
Wow. Wow. So that really does move it through. So in terms of this virtual recruiter, what kind of activities can it perform?
Yeah, and I think the most common use case right now that we see is pre-qual and qualification. So you've obviously got these deep pools of candidates or sales clients that can visit you on different mediums, and they might not be qualified for any opportunity that you have. And so being able to use automation and artificial intelligence to qualify them is one big part of it. Smart lead distribution is another part of it. So the concept of once you've gotten questions or answers to those types of qualification questions, how do we make sure that we get that individual to the right recruiter or team of recruiters as quickly as possible? So as an example of a customer use case, if a candidate lands on a website, we can ask them questions like their years experience, their location, what skills or category they have, and then route them to the right individual or team of individuals, and then distribute those leads in round robin or next recruiter up type fashion.
So this actually creates a little bit of like that, almost like pre-sales, like a pre-sales team or a pre-recruiting team that sort of stages in many cases if it's going through qualifying and routing.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And not only that, but there's also a post-hire use case. And I think that we've nailed down the pre-hire up to date really well. But as we look into 2022 and beyond, well, I think we'll talk about a roadmap later, so I won't show my hand. But we think that there's a really big use case for post-hire. And you can use the AI to deflect questions that someone has either pre-hire or post-hire. So whether they have questions on whether they can work with a friend, or if they have questions on how they can enter their time cards or how they can view their pay stubs, which is more post-hire, you can save a recruiter or a salesperson an awful lot of time by deflecting, common FAQs and questions that hold teams back that can be utilized in automated fashion.
Wow.
If
So
you think about like the banking industry or healthcare industry, those have like 90% of their customer interactions deflected by AI or bot technology. I don't think staffing and recruiting is quite there yet, or even close to that, but I think
right.
that's the direction that things are going if I look ahead.
Well, so in looking ahead, great segue. In looking ahead, like, does this start to disrupt a bit of the human connection? I mean, staffing is all about connecting humans with jobs and humans with humans. So, like, does it start sort of getting in the way of like that human connection?
Yeah, and this is like a question that as long as I can think back over the last 5 years at every conference, like people are like, are AI going to replace recruiters or take over the recruiter's job?
Like Terminator.
And you see AI assisting a lot of that connection. And our friend and one of our advisors, Lauren Jones, calls it connecting the dots with bots. And the idea is that no, we don't want AI and artificial intelligence to replace what a salesperson or recruiter does. We want to replace the mundane tasks they have to do, or the questions that bogs them down that can be answered in an automated fashion, and actually allow them to focus more time on relationship management and have more time to talk to candidates or talk to sales leads. And so, in fact, it doesn't disrupt it at all. It actually aids it and allows you to have more conversations than you were having before.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, I mean, listen, being a marketer and having a marketing agency, my biggest question is, how does this impact marketing? So, like, how can we use this as a means of being able to, like, you know, create further advantages and competitive advantages for our clients?
Yeah, I knew that this was coming because you're a marketing mind at heart. So I think it's a couple of things. One, you can use it to establish brand identity. So if you think about the bot being an extension of your brand, like the bots that we deploy for our customers aren't the same for a healthcare agency versus a light industrial agency. We can add their branding, their tonality, allow them to personalize it and customize it. So it's really a reflection of their vision and their brand. And it will
No
vary.
kidding.
Yeah, it varies quite a bit from agency to agency. The other big part of it, it has to do with data collection and integration. And so, as you have these bot interactions, they're collecting massive amounts of data. And whether it's Staffing Engine or one of our competitors, the good ones are integrating with as many tools as possible. So if you think about, those qualification questions, you're starting out by, asking, name, phone number, email address, but you're also asking your qualification questions, and then you're routing those into not only your applicant tracking system, but in many cases, your collaboration. We've all seen how Slack and Microsoft Teams have just taken off over the last couple of years in
Sure.
response to remote or hybrid workforce. And so being able to serve that information up to an end user very quickly and allow them to hop into the process with information that allows them to hyper personalize definitely extends into marketing.
I mean, listen, personalization is the key to obviously, creating really strong candidate or client experiences, especially when you're dealing with automation sequences that are outside of an AI product. So I could definitely see how gathering that stuff in.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to think about too is there's both the inbound marketing but also outbound marketing. And so one of the things that we do really well is help qualify inbound, but especially in professional recruiting right now, a lot of agencies are focused more on the outbound marketing. And so we have customers who basically are layering our bots into tools like Here, Fish, and Sense that will allow agencies to qualify passive pools of candidates and contacts much faster, because agencies might do outbound marketing and get a bunch of people raising their hands for more information, but they might not be qualified. So it's how quickly can you qualify them, make sure they're a good potential fit, and then get them in the hands of a recruiter as quickly as possible.
So it actually helps get them through that filtering process. That's awesome. That's really, really good, actually. And good on you guys for like actually extending out that brand identity into that virtual space, like giving the virtual recruiter, I won't call it a chatbot, but giving that virtual recruiter a personality of its own gives people something to interact with, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I'll give a lot of credit to our CMO Andrew Kimmo, but he's like when it comes to creating content and design and things like that, he definitely does a hell of a job for us. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what else can this virtual recruiter do?
yeah, and I think that when you think about it, we're really just scratching the surface. I mean, we're still, about a 2-year-old company, and we really saw a lot of opportunity to enrich both the candidate experience and the client experience out of the gates. One of the things that we're talking about a lot internally, and in fact, some of our customers have even brought this idea to us, is how can we further help botify, so to speak, a staffing agency in their business. And if you think about like some of the capabilities that our AI has the potential to do, it can extend far beyond what you think of in a typical chatbot. One example of this is modifying your internal processes. So, agencies, especially high volume agencies, deal with so much churn and so much onboarding of new recruiters. And so, one of the things that you can do is deploy an internal virtual assistant that can guide them through the onboarding process, help train them on new technology, If you think about like, you can use bots to help, book your travel or book plane tickets.
Sure.
That's it. We're really at the forefront of what we can do to help agencies grow and work faster. Um, another use case is, we've had a couple of customers ask us about AI calling and using embedding our AI into different phone systems that will allow for things like interview confirmation and things like that. And that's a really interesting way to help ensure that meetings that are booked or interviews that are scheduled actually take place. And so while we have a really good head start, there's a lot that we think that, or we not only think, but we're confident that we can deploy to help accelerate all different parts of the recruitment process.
That's tremendous. That's really amazing how like you're getting that full blown integration. Well, look, as you alluded to before, we do want to ask about roadmap stuff. So you've given us a lot to chew on at this point, but what kind of things are on the roadmap for the future that Staffing Engine is working on? And like, where do you think we'll start to see that stuff pop up?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I just like alluded to some of that stuff when we talked about the internal processes. I think that stuff's a little bit further out on our near term roadmap for now. Between now and year's end, we have a couple of Bullhorn customers who mutual customers who are beta testing engine alerts. And again, this is like way outside the realm of a typical chatbot, but we actually have customers who are using our AI to serve up real-time notifications that take place in their ATS to their end users. And if you think about the value behind that, if a recruiter, as an example, is in LinkedIn running a search and a submittal or placement or interview happens that they need to take immediate action on, a lot of times if they're not living in the ATS, they don't see that, or it gets thrown to their email inbox, and that can kind of clutter their inbox. And so we've built an extension that will serve up data to them in real time on records that they're associated with or opt in to follow. And what that's going to do is one, it's going to help drastically increase the speed to respond. And that speed to respond can be time to submit, it can be time to interview, it can be time to place. The other thing that I know from working many years at Bullhorn is that regardless of who your recruiting CRM or cut their or core CRM is, whether it's Bullhorn, Salesforce, TempWorks, Aviante, those companies really are challenged by how do we help improve adoption across really big, large user sets. You always have power users and you have people who don't really touch the system. Well, we think that Engine Alerts is a great way to help drive adoption, particularly for companies who are recently have gone live or who deal with a lot of turnover, drive them back into the ATS to update and manage activity.
Nice.
That's one thing. Data and analytics is a huge thing. So right now on OneReach's backend, we have all sorts of access to different interesting pieces of data. So like where people fall off in the process of interacting with bots, how many qualified leads have come in, how many are converting, going to the next step, how many meetings are getting booked. Today, we have access and have to serve that up to our customers. Where we're going is building dashboards that display all that data for them. And we're very close to having that done. That should be done in the next quarter. We're really excited about that. And then a little bit further out, but we've had conversations with many different providers who are building or have built the worker apps. And I see that as being the future. Like if someone goes from a candidate to a worker, they're probably not going to go back into your website for answers to questions. They're going to log into an app if your agency has deployed one. And so the idea is that, right now we have our AI layering on, all these mediums, website, social media, SMS. We also want to integrate with and live in the worker apps too, so that as workers log in, they have questions around their time cards or pay stubs or credentials, whatever they might be. We can deflect or produce a live chat in those solutions as well.
Oh wow. This is amazing. What so in terms of that roadmap, like is this stuff that we're going to be seeing coming out later on this year, or is this something that's sort of
Yeah.
like you're looking at the
Yes.
next couple of years?
Absolutely. And in fact, we just brought on a new developer who's starting in a couple of weeks up to help drive a lot of this. But
Amazing.
Engine Alerts is in beta now, will have actually a product that I believe that we can sell by the time Engage rolls around at the start of June. And like anything else, that product will continue getting stronger and enhanced. I think we'll have data analytics out next quarter, at least the first version of it. I mean, we're already having conversations with how to integrate with many of the worker apps. And so that's a goal between now and year's end for at least a couple of them. So this is some of it's, further out into 2023, but a lot of it will have shipped and ready for availability by the end of this year.
Tremendous. Listen, Matt, can't thank you enough for joining, right? Recruitment acceleration, obviously a big play, a big push, and really an innovation that Staffing Engine is bringing into the industry as a whole. Again, what is the expression? Rising tides raise all ships. So love what you guys are doing over there. And certainly, like, as more stuff comes to the surface, let's have you back in to sort of talk about some of the nuances and things. Maybe we can even dig further into like very specific user functionality or functionality that we can create in order to create efficiencies for staffing. I hope everybody has enjoyed this segment. As always, we'll be back again next week with another weekly bite. In fact, next week on May 4th, and I know that I haven't sent the schedule out yet, but May 4th, we're going to do digital transformation in staffing. We're going to have Leap Consulting. In fact, Matt mentioned Lauren Jones on this session itself. So yeah, we're going to have LJ in here talking about all those things that we need to know. And thank you for joining us. I hope everybody has a
definitely check that one out. That'll be a great
for sure. Yeah. Well, listen, again, Matt, thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed the session. Have a great rest of your week, and we will be back next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jeff.